Wake up, babe. We've got a new agent protocol standard. Welcome back to the AI Daily Brief Headlines Edition, all the daily AI news you need in around 5 minutes. One of the reasons that agent development has moved so fast this year is that the big labs and big agent builders have all decided that the prize on the other side of the rainbow is so big that it is not worth them competing to have to own all the infrastructure and standards along the way. What I mean by that is that you've seen this real rally around the standard kind of effect when it comes to MCP, which is, of course, the Model Context Protocol and the way that agents can get access to sets of data in a standardized way, as well as A2A, which is an agent communication protocol. Well, now Google has announced a new protocol for agentic payments. On Tuesday, the company announced the Agents Payment Protocol, or AP2, which they describe as an open protocol developed with leading payments and technology companies to securely initiate and transact agent-led payments across platforms. The protocol is supported by over 60 partners, including, you name it, basically a who's who of finance and fintech: American Express, Ant International, Coinbase, Etsy, MasterCard, PayPal, Revolut, UnionPay, etc. So a broad consortium of payments and technology firms that spans the globe. The protocol is explicitly designed as an extension of MCP and A2A, establishing a standard for agents to interact with various commerce and payments platforms. Google noted that agentic shopping breaks 3 fundamental assumptions in e-commerce around authorization, authenticity, and accountability. A merchant can't know if an agent has valid authorization to spend, or whether their actions accurately reflect user intent. Further, there's no way to establish accountability if a fraudulent or incorrect transaction takes place, which generally leaves the merchant at fault. AP2 seeks to solve those problems by standardizing the way that agents convey this information. Information is codified as mandates, which Google describes as tamper-proof, cryptographically signed digital contracts that serve as verifiable proof of a user's instructions. Mandates can be created by a human user or fully delegated to an agent. For example, a user might ask for white running shoes, which is codified as an intent mandate. Then the agent would return with a shopping cart containing a pair of shoes, which the user signs off on using a cart mandate. For delegated operation, the user might sign an intent mandate for an agent to buy concert tickets as soon as they go on sale. This functions as full pre-approval, allowing the agent to generate a cart mandate by itself based on certain criteria being met. This process establishes authorization, intent, and accountability to create an audit trail, essentially making agent purchases less able to be contested or reversed. Now, the expressiveness of the protocol allows users to do some really interesting things with complex transactions. Google gave the example of being able to authorize an agent to buy a particular jacket in a different color and being willing to spend up to 20% more than the price of a sold-out item. Users can also assign an overall budget for a more loosely defined goal. The example given was instructing an agent to book a round-trip flight and a hotel in Palm Springs for the first weekend of November with a total budget of $700. The agent can then book the various flights, hotel stays, and car rentals using the authorization. The protocol consequently paves the way for an agent-to-agent sales system. Google explained that a user could instruct their agent to purchase a new bicycle from a particular merchant, and then using that intent information, the merchant agent could then create a bundle including a helmet and a luggage rack at a discount and communicate that offer to the customer agent as a way of automating the upsell process. There is also a whole stablecoin integration, which, to the extent that you find interesting, maybe we'll go into in more depth, but ultimately this is all about standardizing a set of communications that are necessary to make agents more functional in the real world. Google concluded, AP2 provides a trusted foundation to fuel a new era of AI-driven commerce. It establishes the core building blocks for secure transactions, creating clear opportunities for the industry, including networks, issuers, merchants, technology providers, and end users, to innovate on adjacent areas like seamless agent authorization and decentralized identity. The protocol is completely open and available through GitHub, so anyone can start building features on top of it immediately. Now, as you might imagine, a lot of the discussion on Twitter/X was around the crypto integration implications of this, whether this should all be on-chain, etc., etc. But I think from our standpoint over here on the AI show, if this also starts to get adopted, it could very quickly accelerate an entire set of agentic commerce use cases that are honestly such low-hanging fruit that I expect them to be ubiquitous by the end of next year. Staying in the Alphabet universe, but moving to a very different area, YouTube has introduced a huge range of new AI features at the Made on YouTube event. The inevitable and expected VO3 integration is here, with YouTube allowing creators to use Google's video model to generate short clips for the platform. The toolbox also includes an AI editing feature, which allows creators to take a still image and apply a motion template. You can see their example of AI being used to transform a photo of an office worker into a karate master. Creators can also apply a style overlay to videos, including pop art or origami, as well as adding characters or props to videos using text prompts. Now, there are really kind of two totally separate things going on here. The first is quirky, interesting tools that could make for viral content formats. But some of the more professional tools, I think, have much bigger implications for the way that creators make YouTube content in general. The Edit with AI feature, for example, can also be used to generate a workable first draft from raw footage. Creators can upload a video from their camera roll, and Google's AI models will put together a short of the best moments and add music and voiceover. Basically, YouTube has put together a semi-automated way to churn out short-form content, which can then be refined as a creator sees fit. The same philosophy is being applied to podcast content, which has become an increasingly large focus for YouTube in recent years. In the coming months, podcasters will be able to use AI to generate clips and YouTube Shorts from their longer-form content. The AI models will also be able to generate video content to go along with audio-only podcasts, which is a huge unlock. And honestly, as someone who is creating exactly this type of content, it is hard for me to describe how useful it is to have these tools natively in the distribution platform rather than just available as a third-party tool. That doesn't mean that there aren't opportunities for really unique and high-quality third-party experiences, but so much of the work of distribution is just that. It's work, it's clunky, it's hard. It involves an entirely different skill set than producing the content in the first place. The more that YouTube can normalize that and just make it effortless for creators, frankly, the better. Moving over to Microsoft and a follow-up to our story about them including Anthropic's models, the company has introduced an automatic model selector to GitHub Copilot and will now in fact favor Anthropic's models. On auto mode, the selector will choose between Claude Sonnet 4, GPT-5, GPT-5 Mini, and other models. However, Microsoft noted that for paid users, we currently plan to primarily rely on Claude Sonnet 4 as the model powering unit. Tom Warren of The Verge writes, "It's a tacit admission from Microsoft that the software maker is favoring Anthropic's AI models over OpenAI's latest GPT-5 models for coding and development. Sources familiar with Microsoft's developer plans tell me that the company has been instructing its own developers to use Claude Sonnet 4 in recent months." And as we discussed when that news first broke, as much as people want to make this about the Microsoft-OpenAI relationship fraying, I'm kind of willing to take them at face value that this is just about express model preference. Now, speaking of ChatGPT, two more quick stories on that front. The first is that Sam Altman and OpenAI have introduced an update to ChatGPT's personalization settings. Altman posted, "We've updated ChatGPT's personalization page. Personality configuration, custom instructions, and memories are now all in one place." Now, while to many this might just represent a decent quality of life improvement, AI engineer Jacob Possel noticed an Easter egg hidden in the announcement. Over on the left-hand bar, he noticed a tab called Orders and commented Sam Altman quietly showing orders are coming to ChatGPT. Could this be a place to manage integrations for the sort of agentic shopping we were just talking about? I bet we'll find out soon. Lastly today, OpenAI has rolled out new restrictions and guardrails in an attempt to improve teen AI safety. ChatGPT will now refuse to engage in conversations around sexual topics or issues of self-harm with underage users. The chatbot will also be capable of contacting parents or police in certain circumstances. In addition, parents will now be able to set blackout hours where ChatGPT is unavailable for use by their children using new parental controls. The changes come in the wake of a rolling scandal about harm from teens using chatbots. Months of reporting and lawsuits culminated in a Senate hearing on Tuesday entitled Examining the Harm of AI Chatbots. 3 parents of teenage victims were present to tell their stories, while none of the AI labs sent a representative. In announcing the new features, OpenAI shared their thinking about the underlying problem. It's notable that the announcement blog post wasn't from the company, but was from Altman himself. The company acknowledged that there is going to be some privacy compromising to implement these features, but that ultimately they think it's a worthy trade-off. Look, unfortunately, over the past few weeks, it has become abundantly clear just how challenging the issues of internet culture are and how far behind, frankly, we are on those issues. So I think it is very safe to say that this is the beginning of a much larger conversation around this aspect of artificial intelligence. For now, though, that's going to do it for today's AI Daily Brief Headlines edition. Next up, the main episode.